much. Our friend Katie Couric is back in Studio 1A this morning. She's here to talk about a powerful new documentary called Under the Gun. It examines both sides of the gun safety debate in this country and explores the drastic rise in mass shootings and daily gun violence across the United States. Katie, good morning. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
Headlines. There are always headlines about what do we do about guns following mass shootings, following violence in cities like Chicago and other cities. And the frustration a lot of people have is that that talk and those headlines fade quickly. Why'd you decide to do this now?
Well, you know, I couldn't understand the disconnect, Matt, between the fact that 90% of the public really favors universal background checks. And after Sandy Hook, everyone thought this was a watershed moment, something would be done. And then when Manchin Toomey died in the Senate, I couldn't understand the disconnect between public opinion and our elected officials. And I wanted to really uncover why nothing was happening in this issue.
And people tend to think of this as an either-or debate, black and white. But
You're for us or against us.
Exactly, which has been said by the head of the NRA, yet you do try to examine the middle ground. You talked about 90% of Americans. 74% of members of the NRA are for universal background checks.
I know, wasn't that shocking? We talked to members outside their convention in Nashville, and they all said they favor, well, most. I think there was one person who disagreed with that, but they all said they favor universal background checks. And we told them, Matt, that if you're on the terror watch list in this country, it's still legal to buy a gun. And they were shocked by that. Not only that, but the NRA only represents 5% of gun owners. So there's this huge silent majority. And so I think that's very hopeful because there's a lot of common ground.
You talk about personal stories in this, and you tell the story of Lonnie and Sandy Phillips. They lost their daughter, Jessie, in the Aurora theater shooting. What did you learn about them?
Oh my gosh, they are such amazing people, and I think this film has so much heart. I know you watched it, Matt, because we do embed with all these families who have lost loved ones. They lost their adorable daughter, Jessie, 24 years old, in Aurora, Colorado. And Lonnie and Sandy were gun owners and are gun owners, and they belong to the NRA, and they just never thought about this. So their views on guns, they became advocates and really experts. They've really evolved.
There's a very common expression out there that says the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And yet they asked their daughter's boyfriend, who was there, if he had had a gun at the time, would it have made a difference? I
thought that was one of the most impactful moments of the film. One of the first things they asked him, because he had a concealed carry permit, but because he traveled from Texas to Colorado to visit Jessie, yeah, he didn't have his gun. One of the first things they asked is, would it have made a difference if you had had your gun? And he said, absolutely not. There was so much chaos. They were trapped. More innocent people would have died. And so, you know, this is the argument that's perpetrated by the gun lobby, but most public health experts and gun safety experts say it's just a specious argument.
We worked together here for 10 years. We've covered so many of these stories. I mean, I remember your coverage of Columbine so many years ago. Was it difficult in setting out to do this project to separate what was deeply personal to you from the professional?
No, not really, you know, because, Matt, I went in with an open mind. Yes, Columbine was just devastating. Of course, that interview with Matthew Scholes and Craig Scott, I'll never forget it. It was one of the most meaningful conversations I've had in my career because it was so raw. It was the morning after, and I've actually kept up with Craig Scott. I saw him the other day for a glass of wine because he was here in New York. But, you know, I wanted to have an open mind. I wanted to understand the psyche of gun owners in this country and what they were afraid of. And they are very fearful of confiscation, which has been ginned up by the gun lobby, because when gun sales go down, the gun lobby has really become a marketing arm for the gun manufacturers. They don't really speak for their members.
And by the way, the Supreme Court has already ruled out confiscation.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a right under the Second Amendment to have a gun for self-protection.
Even Justice Scalia said it wasn't unlimited.
Katie, it's very powerful. I watched it yesterday. And congratulations.
Thanks so much for bringing attention to this and having me on the show, Matt.
Absolutely. Under the Gun airs May 15th on
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.